our last podcast, I talked to you about communication and understanding. I want to throw a few more ideas your way on that. And also, the previous podcast before that, we talked about inner voices. And there's a place where those two podcasts come together, subject matter wise. And I'd like to just see if I can't put some interesting ideas your way. There is a part of us that holds with dear life fervor onto simplicities because simplicities are workable and complex things are not workable because there's idea that once we label a thing as complex, it's now out of our reach. It's now non-understandable. Truth is, there's nothing in the world that's complex. There's just things that have a whole bunch of really simple pieces to them. And the sheer number of those simple pieces creates the appearance of complexity. And so that leads to this idea, which I think is really important. It's an idea that's taught in the upper echelons of elite special operators in the military. It's taught in business school. It's definitely taught to high end trial lawyers. It's taught to most people who have to be able to perform in difficult environments. And so, for example, in Delta Force, they would say, break it down, break it down, break it down. That's how they deal with a problem that they don't understand, is they break it down into simple parts. Then things start to jump out at them. When it comes to your ability to listen, you need to have that skill. I'd like to have you do another thought experiment with me. And this one is that you're in your boss's office at work, and he's just asked you to do something that you didn't fully understand and you don't know how to do, and you're already feeling anxious because you're going to screw this up since you have no bloody clue how to conduct yourself through this exercise. And you don't dare let him know because it's necessary never to show ignorance at work, isn't it? Isn't it vitally important that we never let anyone find out our limitations? Fake it till you make it. Isn't that the main idea here? No, it's not. The main idea is true success. But your boss is impatient. He's kind of looking at his watch every 5 seconds and he's fuming. He's going, I need you to do blah, 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 and get on out of here. And you don't know what that is. So maybe you say, I can see you're busy and in a hurry. I'm going to get out of your office now, but could we talk further about this after lunch? Well, why? What is it you don't understand? You may at that point in time have to risk losing some of his confidence and saying, here's what I don't understand. Or I don't understand any of what you just said to me. When I was a young lawyer, I had a boss who would misuse words left and right. And so when he'd say, you got to get the compliance in a malpractice case, you got to get the compliance. And I'd listen to that like, what the hell does that mean? Get the compliance. I figured I'd go home and ask my trial lawyer daddy, what is he saying there, Dad? I don't understand. I don't want him to know that I don't understand. Well, there's a statute in Colorado called the Certificate of Review Statute. It's Colorado Revised Statute 13-20-601. And it basically says if you bring an action against a licensed professional, you have to file a certificate indicating that you've run the facts of the case by someone else with the same expertise as your defendant, licensed professional, and they have said this is not a frivolous claim. So that's a certificate of review. You got to get the compliance. Where does that come from? Well, if you don't comply with that statute, then you're out of compliance with the statute and your case can be dismissed. But he was talking in words that no one would understand. What I did there, the way I got myself out of jail, is I said, well, wait a minute. Get the compliance. Compliance with what? And he'd get huffy with me and he'd snort. He made these snorting noises that in hindsight are sort of endearing because they're funny, but at the time they were offensive and irritating. But he said, well, there's a statute that says when you sue a doctor, you've got to have a certificate that says you talked to another doctor in the same field and he says your case has merit. Oh, I don't even need to ask what statute it is because now he's told me what it is. I can go find that. That's not going to be hard. And it took me 5 minutes. But I had to stop and ask questions. I had to make sure I really got it. This has something to do with whether what's being said is important. And a directive from your boss is important. If you're talking to your boss and you don't understand what he wants you to do, you can pretend that you do and hope to somehow get rescued by a coworker or a family member, or you can just say, I don't understand that. And I don't care how impatient your boss is. If you don't understand something, 99% of bosses will like an employee who, when they don't understand something, come right out and say so. Did you know that 63.25% of all statistics are made up on the spot? Just a side thing. Well, when you ask questions, you have to be able to ask those questions in a way that empowers the other person and does not negate them. It is possible to have a boss angry at you because he thinks you're making light of an assignment through the manner in which you ask your questions. So be respectful and say, if he says, for example, I need you to write a report analyzing the X issue. If you don't know what the X issue even is, you know what a report is, you know what analyzing is, you just may not know what that issue is. So you say, when you say X issue, what do you mean exactly? And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I just somehow my brain went blank. Can you help me with that? And most employers, even if they're hard asses, even if they're grumpy dickheads, they'll answer the question. And now you walk out of that office empowered to go successfully complete your assignment. And that is going to put you up on the totem pole, not down on the totem pole. So the ability to ask questions is just as much of an art as listening, just as much of an art as expressing yourself. But knowing how to ask the question, knowing what tone of voice to use. You could say, would you like to see a golden retriever? Or you could say, would you like to see a golden retriever? Those questions come off totally different, but they have the same words. Be alert to the voice inflection that you use. Because if you ask the question the right way, you'll bypass all the protective mechanisms in the person's brain and they'll just feel like they need to answer it. You'll find that if you experiment with your voice, your vocal tone, and your words, when you encourage someone to be more clear, the level of friendship, warmth, affinity, all the good stuff that you want to have with that person is increased by you asking questions. If you do the opposite, you'll just create irritation and a sense of you're not worth talking to. It sounds like hocus pocus magic. It sounds like some kind of ethereal bullshit, but it's not. This is really useful stuff. As a trial lawyer, we have to learn these things so that we can ask questions a certain way in court. I may ask a witness a question when in reality, I'm asking the jury to consider a question. And I don't care what the witness's answer is. I just want that jury pondering that question, even if it's for a split second. I'm Brett Godfrey. Thanks for listening.